Ultra Minimum Battles is a challenge category in which I try to beat the game of Pokemon Red and Blue with only 13 battles. 8 gym leaders, 4 Elite Four members, the champion, that's it. Basically, it's a way of trying to figure out which Pokemon are the best of the best. Because if they don't need all those extra battles that you take as you go through the game, if they could just beat bosses and progress from level 5 all the way to the end, then we have to say those Pokemon are pretty darn amazing. So far, we've attempted this challenge with 2 Pokemon. We did it with Victory Bell first, which was actually pretty impressive for a first run, but then we had a Mewtwo run that wasn't quite as good, and it looked like Mewtwo might actually be pretty tough on this sort of setting. That's kind of surprising given the fact that Mewtwo has the best stats in Generation 1, including a massive 25% critical hit chance. It was really just the slow level up group and the lack of level up moves before level 63 that really held it back, or at least so I thought. But after reading the comments releasing that video, I realized that I had made a massive mistake. Somehow, my Mewtwo had become a poison type Pokemon. So how the heck would this even happen? Well, there's actually a pretty simple explanation for this. When I do my solo runs on this channel, I use a live overlay. So I've written a script that I use to do all kinds of things. For example, it controls displaying stats on the screen and handling transitions like when I go to the major gym leader battles, but it also allows me to set certain parameters before I start the run. In my menu, I always start off by selecting my Pokemon, and I can set things like my name, my starter's name, the challenge type, and I can set my DVs. But something that I added fairly recently was the ability to change my Pokemon's typings. By doing it this way through my overlay, I can avoid the extra work of making a ROM hack for it when all I want to do is run a Pokemon with a special type. Like when we did the Dragon Gyarados run, or the Ghost Snorlax run, or when we did the Bug Psychic Venomoth. Still, in most runs, I simply leave these 2 type variables set to default, which generally works. It just sets the Pokemon to whatever its typing would normally be, but it does still go from this script to set the typing in the game. Well, last time when I had done the Mewtwo run, I mentioned that I had done it back to back with the Victory Bell run. I think some coders out there in the audience might see what happened. Because Mewtwo is a monotype Pokemon, my script incorrectly only wrote the Psychic type to type 1, leaving type 2 unchanged. And since I was doing it back to back with a Victory Bell, I ended up with a Psychic Poison Mewtwo. So that opens up the question, was Mewtwo really so bad on this setting, or was it just the fact that it had the incorrect typing that caused it to really struggle in some key spots? Well, a few things we can say right out of the gate. Brock, Misty, and Lieutenant Surge have absolutely no change due to the typing. They never had any super effective moves or any resisted moves to use due to the fact that we were poison type, so those fights are probably about the same. However, from Erica onward, everything is probably different. We no longer are going to be resistant to grass or poison type moves, we will no longer be weak against ground type moves from Giovanni, and we're no longer neutrally affected by the moves of Sabrina. So it stands to reason that this probably will be a big improvement, but how much will we improve just from using the proper psychic typing? Let's get into it and find out. So of course, Professor Oak is going to stop us from going out of town and accidentally being a psychic type Mewtwo this time. He's got a proper Pokemon for us. Professor Oak of course knows that his mischievous grandson Gary probably is the one who changed our Pokemon's typing last time, so we're going to go ahead and get our revenge by getting a proper Mewtwo this time. Now of course, on this setting, like I said, we're only going to take 13 battles, and that means that we are intentionally going to lose the Rival 1 fight. We're just going to spam disable, hope not to disable Scratch, and just let him slowly whittle our Pokemon down, because we don't need the experience from this battle. So just like that, he can kind of stunt on us because of our mistake last time, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to make our way out into the world with our Mewtwo. Now I want to give a big thank you to all of the people in the community who pointed out the mistake last time. I missed it. Not only am I playing at like 4 times speed as I go through these runs, I also have the issue that I'm low vision. So basically I have a non-correct uncorrectable eye condition that means that it's really hard for me to read the text on the screen, especially when it's going fast. So sometimes I miss things like a random super effective notification that shouldn't have been there. So apologies, but thanks for pointing it out. And if you find a mistake like that, just let me know. We will come back and do the run again properly. Now, as usual in this ultra minimum battle setting, we are starting the game with 10 of every single vitamin. We do this so that we can test the best possible version of this Pokemon. It has max DVs, and we're going to give it as much stat experience as possible through vitamins at the start of the game, and just see if from level 5 it's able to beat the entire game. So you can use 10 of each vitamin when you have no stat experience, which means that we're just going to use these 10 HP ups, 10 proteins, 10 irons, and theoretically you could get these a lot of ways. You could teleport around the map the same way that you would in order to fight all the gym leaders just to pick them up. You could use the missing no glitch to get infinite money by duplicating items, or you could simply transfer them in via the color case in Pokemon Stadium 2. But now with all the vitamins on and max DVs, we can see that we've got 29 HP with 19 attack, 17 defense, 21 speed, and 23 special at level 5 with our Mew Redo. Now outside of that, we start with 12 rare candies, the number that you could get in a standard playthrough, 4 elixirs, and 2 max elixirs. Those are just for PP management late in the game, but for now we're gonna just try to beat the first gym. I don't think we need to do any sort of special routing in order to get through Brock. Even a level 5 Mewtwo should have this battle in the bag, but let's just check it again to see if it's consistent. So of course against Brock, the only strategy is just to use Psychic. We'll just stick it in the top slot, and this first Geodude is going to be a 2-hit KO after a crit. We get to level 6 as Onix comes out. It's faster and uses Tackle, but this is going to be a 2-hit KO, so we're basically guaranteed to win against Brock every time there. I mean, maybe we could get terrible luck with critical hits and somehow lose, but I really don't think so. We easily get through in 10 minutes 53 seconds with really no difficulty. Brock simply never stood a chance. And with Brock finished, it's basically time to come back to the power plant. This was our strategy last time, where we came here first in order to get access to a couple TMs. We can get access to Reflect that's sitting right there, and we can get access to Thunder. Thunder is the key move that we're going to need when it comes to the Misty fight. Now we can also grab a PP up in here just to have it and wave goodbye to Zapdos, and just like that, we're actually ready to take on the next gym leader. Now it's important to note that you could get access to a move like Thunder by simply trading in a TM25 from another cartridge via the color case, or by sending your Mewtwo to another cartridge and just teaching the move there. It is the best move that we have available for Misty, given the fact that it will be super effective against both of her Pokemon. But how does it actually perform? Let's get into the fight and find out. So first up, against the Staryu, we need to go for Thunder, and of course the problem with this move is it's 70% accurate. In fact, we'd probably be better off going Psychic once and then Thunder on that Pokemon. Out next is the Starmie. We survived the first Water Gun, but not the second one, and we never managed to land a Thunder. So let's try this one again, where now we're going to go for Psychic first on the Staryu, and then try to Thunder it after that. And that is enough to get the 2-hit KO. Out next comes the Starmie. She goes for X Defend turn 1 and then goes for Tackle. Tackle's not doing much damage, but because we missed 2 Thunders, we lost. We have to hit all 3 Thunders here or get a critical hit if we're going to get through the Starmie. So on attempt 7, we got her all the way down to red health after a critical hit, but we still just couldn't survive 2 Bubble Beams. Bubble Beam is far too powerful here. There is a chance that she just uses Tackle though, which is what we really want to see, given the fact that it's not a same type move. Finally, on attempt number 9, we managed to actually knock out the Starmie by getting the 3 hits, but that fight is still just incredibly inconsistent for Mewtwo, and there's not really a better option. Like, what are we gonna do? Go fight Lieutenant Surge? Go fight Erica? They're at significantly higher levels than Misty's Pokemon, and they have larger teams, so if we were gonna beat the game fighting only gym leaders, there's no other really good challenger to take on, but Mewtwo is just not quite consistent doing doing it. So now with 8 resets and 1 TM, we're definitely still behind Victory Bell in this challenge, and it's going to be a question if we can manage to catch up. Because as mentioned last time, Victory Bell was all the way to this point in the game with no resets whatsoever, but Mewtwo just doesn't quite match up to the early game gym leaders as well. Now it's worth noting I am using a walk through walls glitch in order to do this challenge because it's just simpler than setting up the glitches that, for example, speedrunners use for the reverse gym leader order. But effectively you can set this up either with walk through walls like I'm doing, or you could simply do the whole glitching around the map thing in order to get it to go. Both ways are perfectly fine. The point of this run is not the glitches. I had a few people get really angry at me in the comments, but it's not about the glitch itself. It's about whether or not we can beat the game with really minimal experience. So for now, I'm going to come onto the SSN just to get access to Body Slam, which may be useful later on, but for now we're just going to make our way over to Lieutenant Surge and see if we can beat him. Now we are coming in only at level 11 here, but we have really good stats overall: 36 attack, 32 defense, 41 speed, 46 special. But I am going to update my moveset slightly. I am going to actually learn Body Slam right away here. I'm going to learn this move over Swift. The reason I want Body Slam is because maybe we can paralyze the Raichu, and that might actually help us get through this a little bit easier. So Lieutenant Surge attempt number 1, we're just going Psychic on the Voltorb. It tried to go for Sonic Boom on us, which did nothing the first time, but it does hit the second one. We get to level 12 as the Pikachu comes out, and we already outspeed it. This is going to be a 2-hit KO. And now the question is just how do we do against Raichu? We're at level 13, but Thunderbolt is going to do way too much damage. It could use Thunderbolt, or it could go for Thunder Shock against us. We're kind of hoping for Thunder Shock in this case. So this time we get to Raichu on slightly better health, but still Thunderbolt is just too much. The next attempt, we're back to Raichu again. We got a Thunder Shock that we tanked just fine, but then the Thunderbolt yet again is just too much for us to get through. Now the fact is it takes a critical hit in order to one-shot against the Pikachu, and in theory if we can get multiple critical hits here against the Raichu, we might be able to get through it, or if we could get a special drop, but unfortunately yet again a critical hits us there, so we had no chance to get through. So while I always joke about the fact that Lieutenant Surge is a trash man, he's actually reasonably tough here, even with a Mewtwo when you're running on ultra minimum battles. So now attempt number 5, this is the best HP we've ever gotten to Raichu with so far, but a single critical hit just knocks us out all the same. Still, yet again, there's not really a better situation for us. We're not going to be that good against Erica. We're not going to be looking very good against Sabrina, I don't think, so this is probably our best bet to get through this section. So this time we paralyze the Raichu and we get a nice critical hit and a special drop, so on 1 HP remaining, we finally managed to beat the Trash Man in 26 minutes. Now I lost a couple minutes of time due to running out of bounds, but still, it's really not great, at least not in the context of Victory Bell. Victory Bell got through these gyms with 0 resets, whereas we're already 13 resets into this one, and we're gonna have to get really good luck the rest of the way in order to come anywhere close to matching Victory Bell. But this is the part of the game where now finally the fact that we are a proper Psychic type might actually help us in the next few gyms. Now remember that we can take on these gyms in any order that we want, because technically we're just teleporting around the map or walking through walls to get wherever we're at, but I'm going to take on Erica first. I still think that due to level curves and the fact that Psychic is super effective against 2 of her Pokemon means that this should be the easier fight, but let's see if it actually works out or not. Now, one advantage of being poison type in the previous run was that she didn't really want to use her poison or grass type moves against us, so we were only dealing with Wrap from the Victory Bell. This time, on the other hand, we're gonna have to hope that we can manage to get through Victory Bell better, because it's going to use Razor Leaf on us, which did massive damage. Then it does miss a poison powder, however, so we do manage to get through to the Tangela. Here, Tangela, of course, only knows Constrict and Bind. We just didn't really want to see Bind, but we got it. Still, we manage to get through. We get to level 16 as the Vileplume comes out. Psychic does less than half. We get put to sleep, and then Mega Drain ends us. So I think the obvious play here is to learn TM13 for Ice Beam. This will obviously give us a chance to freeze her Pokemon, but also it gives us a better move to use against the Tangela, hopefully reducing the amount of damage that we take. So here we get a special drop on the Victory Bell, which means that we actually managed to do really good damage, but then she does put us to sleep and starts wrapping us. We have to hope that we wake up in time that we can actually knock this Pokemon out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out, and Victory Bell takes us down. This time we get a turn 1 critical hit, but then we get crit ourselves. We still managed to get through that first Victory Bell though. Now let's see what Ice Beam does to the Tangela. It did about half. So we get a 2-hit KO there. Finally, back to Vileplume. Psychic with a crit doesn't one-shot, and we get knocked out by Petal Dance. Now this fight is technically winnable because she could use a bunch of non-damaging moves against us, but again, we can see that it's not very consistent. Last time when she thought we were a poison type, we were actually getting a pretty big advantage on this fight, whereas here we don't have any such advantage and we just have to beat her with our moves as is. And that critical hit Razor Leaf just does massive damage from the first Pokemon every single time. This time we managed to freeze Tangela though, so this Pokemon's free. And now let's see if we can survive at least a hit from Vileplume. Instead, it puts us to sleep, and that's all she wrote for this one. So let's try Ice Beam instead on Vileplume. We get a critical hit that takes it down to half health, but again, we're just not going to be able to survive after we get put to sleep. So after a lot of attempts, it's pretty clear that Erica is legit hard when you don't have a resistance here and you are just so massively under-leveled. So is there another gym leader that we could even take on that would give us a reasonable shot? Well, I think there are two reasonable options. One, of course, is Koga, because he could just use X attacks and let us hit him with Psychic. But the other possibility is to go and try to take on Sabrina. Now, the logic here is that her final Alakazam will never attack us because we are a Psychic type Pokemon. So its AI tells it that we resist all of its Psychic type moves, so it only wants to use the move Recover against us. So if we can just manage to freeze that Pokemon, it's actually a free win. But it's a question if we can even get to the final Alakazam or not. It's going to depend on the Kadabra and the Mr. Mime especially. I think we can take down the Venomoth reasonably well, but let's just see how this fight actually looks in practice. So first up, we've got a level 38 Kadabra to deal with, and it knows Disable, Recover, Psychic, and Psybeam, and this Pokemon will use attacking moves against us. It's not the same as the final Alakazam because it doesn't have any moves that it views as an alternative to using its Psychic types for damage. The case of the Alakazam is the fact that it has Psywave, which is a move that it thinks is an alternative, but then also gets deprioritized in the game's whole smart AI calculation. So it only uses the move Recover, but this Alakazam will actually sit here and spam a bunch of different moves. So the only way we're really getting through this Pokemon is if it just used Disable over and over and over again, which isn't very likely. It's going to be using all of its moves equally often. So what we would need a 1 in 4 chance at least maybe 4 times in a row. Otherwise, I think the freeze is the only possible way. This time we do get a massive number of disables though. We get to level 15 as the Mr. Mime comes out. It goes for Double Slap, which is bad for us because it's a normal type move that we don't have much resistance to because of our lower defense. So we lose to the Mr. Mime. It's pretty clear that this fight doesn't happen, so outside of that, I think we can only go down to Koga, and if that doesn't work, we may be in real trouble here. So Koga attempt number 1, we're at level 14, he's at level 37, but we do have a super effective Psychic and our stats do match up reasonably well. So we did about half with the first Psychic and got a special drop, so we do manage to knock out the first Coughing and get to level 15. We're faster than Muck, though Psychic looks to be a 3-hit KO here. Sludge is way too strong, it nearly one-shot us. We do manage to knock that Pokemon out though and get to level 16, only to be knocked out by this second Coughing. So clearly we need no Sludge, we probably need more critical hits, Let's see if we can manage to get the luck. On attempt 4, we managed to get to the final wheezing, but we are poisoned. He X attacks turn 1, and he is faster, but then he goes self-destruct, and we simply lose. So after several attempts, it seems pretty clear we're not going to be able to get through this fight at our current level, so there's only a couple things left to try. Now, the simplest strategy is simply to come back to Erica and try to freeze the first victory bell. It's not great, it's only a 10% chance, but at least with that, we should be able to get through with much better HP to the final Vileplume, and with the extra levels, maybe we'll be able to make progress. So that's the strategy. I'm just going to use Ice Beam here and hope to get the freeze. We don't get it this time, but we only get poisoned by the first Pokemon, so we might actually stand a chance here. Of course, we don't want to see Bind from the Tangela, but we knock it out in 2 hits. We're getting really good luck here. We get to the final Vileplume, get a critical hit Psychic, and we survive Petal Dance thanks to the fact that it can't put us to sleep. So we come back to Erica and win on the first attempt. So yeah, it's definitely possible. It's just random. If she just goes Poison Powder over and over again, I guess we can win, but it's not consistent. Mewtwo is just not gonna win these first 4 gym battles anywhere near as consistently as a Victory Bell does, because when Victory Bell comes to this fight, it's basically immune to everything, so Erica doesn't even really try. Still, Mewtwo did get through in 43 minutes and 32 seconds. We're up to 31 resets and 3 TMs to get through this gym. Definitely not great. Now, with that battle done, I think the only logical play is to come back to Koga. We're at a slightly higher level, but more importantly, we were getting to his final Pokemon, something that we couldn't say for the Sabrina fight. So let's just see if the extra levels have made any difference here, especially now that we've got 69 special. Very nice. We might be doing enough damage to actually get through these Pokemon more reliably. So now against his first Coughing, we're definitely getting it in 2 hits. He goes Smokescreen, which isn't great, but at least it wasn't damage. Now he goes Minimize with the Muck and then X attacks. And we're still in this situation where Sludge is just going to do way too much damage. With a crit, we're going down every single time, I think. This time we actually managed to get Muck down with no damage taken, so we're on to the second Coughing. A critical hit one-shots it, and now we are actually faster than the final Wheezing. Earlier we were slower, but the extra levels have helped. Here we're just hoping not to get a self-destruct. He goes X attack instead. So in 2 attempts coming back at a higher level, we managed to beat Koga. So it's pretty clear that you have to get good ranges on Misty, Lieutenant Surge, and Erica, but then Koga is much more manageable. And now we can move on in the game where we've got to choose whether to go to Sabrina, go to Giovanni, or go to Blaine. Obviously, Blaine is the one that doesn't make much sense. We don't have any type advantages. I'm gonna try Sabrina just because maybe at this slightly higher level now Body Slam will do enough damage that we can get through that first Kadabra more reliably. Now, this is the point in the last attempt where we ended up having to use rare candies. We just couldn't manage to get through at our current level, but that was with me not realizing that we were being neutrally affected by Psychic type moves. So it makes sense that we should at least try to get through at our current level without the rare candies here. We are still slower than the Kadabra no matter what we do, but maybe it works out. So here we're gonna go for Body Slam. Psybeam did significantly less damage at least. Psychic still is strong, but we knock out the Kadabra in 2 hits with a crit. Out next comes the Mr. Mime, and we are faster than this Pokemon now. It critical hits the Double Slap, which was kind of bad, but we do knock it out in 3 turns. Out next is the Venomoth. We are faster. We go for Psychic. It did half, but we survive its Leech Life, something we couldn't last time because we're not 4 times weak to the move. So we knock it out with a crit on the next turn. Alakazam comes out, and here we know the strategy. We have to freeze this Pokemon. Once we get the freeze, we have a guaranteed win, and sure enough, we get the freeze on the first attempt. So now we're just going to Body Slam it down, and just like that, 48 minutes, 39 seconds, we get through Sabrina on the first attempt. That was incredibly lucky to get the freeze that we needed, and to just barely survive against that Leech Life, but it does show that Mewtwo is significantly better here against the Sabrina fight when it doesn't have that disadvantage of being neutrally affected by Psychic and being 4 times weak to Bug. Still, I wouldn't say by any means that this is anywhere close to consistent, so you'd probably expect to take quite a few resets even with the best possible Mewtwo. With all of the vitamins, it's still not going to be great. Still, we are making progress and we have a decent chance to finish better than when we had the poison type on by mistake, and that's pretty cool to see, at least, that some parts are working out a little more like I expected originally. But now I think the only logical play is to go to Giovanni. Two of his Pokemon are of course weak against Psychic, and the other three Pokemon are weak against Ice Beam, so we at least have a way to get through here, and I don't expect his movesets to be that good. So against the Rhyhorn, of course, we're just going to go Ice Beam. We get a critical hit, one-hit KO there. Very nice. And get to level 24. We're still slower than Dugtrio, and it digs this time. And he guard specs underground, but we survive much better here thanks to the fact that we are not poison type, and knock it out with a critical hit. Out next comes the Nidoqueen. I'm going to go for Psychic since it's stab and super effective. He guard specs. We don't manage to get a 2-hit KO. It's a 3-hitter. Nidoking's out next as we get to level 25, and here he goes Poison Sting, allowing us to knock that Pokemon out. Finally, Rhydon, we go Ice Beam. It is not a 1-hitter. It looks like a 3-hit KO. He misses Fissure turn 1 and turn 2 though, because he can't hit a faster Pokemon. So just like that, we managed to beat Giovanni on the first attempt. It was very close. If he had actually done a damage dealing move that wasn't a 1-hit KO move there, we would have lost, but hey, we'll take it. The fact that he's just using Poison Sting in Pokemon Red and Blue is so laughable at this point in the game, but sure. 52 minutes, 18 seconds, Giovanni is done. We're up to 32 resets and 3 TMs, but we are actually making progress in the game. So now we have no choice. We have to go and take on Blaine. He is the only gym leader remaining. So again, if we had Tombstoner, we would obviously have a guaranteed victory here, but we're going to go in with our moveset as it is. And remember, Stab Psychic is already stronger technically than super effective Bubble Beam would be here, so we don't really have any better moves than what we've currently got. We don't learn Earthquake in Gen 1 with Mewtwo, so yeah, we're pretty much just going to go in and try Psychic, see if it works. If it doesn't, we might mess around a little bit with Body Slams, but otherwise, we're just going to have to go for maybe some freezes or start using some rare candies. So here, first against the Growlithe, we're just going to go Psychic. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but Ember does almost nothing. Here, I thought I could knock it out with Body Slam. It turns out to be a 2-hitter, but he was fully paralyzed, so it didn't matter. We critical hit one-shot Ponyta. We're faster than Rapidash, but it's going to be a 3-hitter. Fortunately, he growls, which doesn't matter, so we just knock that Pokemon out on the next turn. We get to level 28 as Arcanine comes out. It misses the Fire Blast. Then we get a critical hit with Psychic that also gets a special drop, and we knock him out the next turn. So Blaney boy, first attempt victory for our Mewtwo. So 55 minutes, 13 seconds to get through that. We haven't added any resets in a minute here, and no new TMs as well, so actually looking pretty good as we get through the Blaine fight, and we're all the way up to level 29 without having used any rare candies. We've defeated all 8 gym leaders. So if we were coming back and optimizing, there's a decent chance that we'd be able to get through some of these sections by using some of our rare candies earlier on. We'll just have to see how the Elite Four pans out though, because that's the part I'm most worried about. Now I am going to come in here and at least get access to Blizzard, just because I think this move could be super important. Who knows, Blizzard could be the key for getting through one of the key tough battles here at the end of the game. I'm especially thinking about the Champion's Exeggutor, which is like the hardest wall that we're going to face in this entire challenge. Still, as we just kind of glitch through walls here, we're going to just go ahead and make our way to the Elite Four with all the badges in tow. We're going to just kind of walk on water too, because we're the perfect trainer with the perfect Pokemon. You know what it is. But yeah, I will say Mewtwo is looking far more impressive than last time, but still it's not quite as good as Victory Bell at this point. We'll just have to see if it finishes really strong. Still, there's not much to do other than buy some full restores, heal up, and then make our way into the league. Let's see if we can take down Lorelei. We might need to add Thunderbolt onto the moveset just in order to have more PP. That was the strategy last time. And honestly, we probably don't need Ice Beam anymore. We can replace it with Blizzard by the time we get to Lance, and that's probably the way to go there. And the rest of our moves are pretty good for where we're at, so I'm gonna just forget Ice Beam, knowing that Gen 1 Blizzard is good enough. With that, let's just save the game and try the Ice Elite Four member. Now, because we have Thunder and Thunderbolt, we're not super worried about the first several Pokemon. We're just hoping to get decent ranges. So here we Thunderbolt on the Dugong. It goes Takedown, so we get to knock it out in a couple more turns as she gets stuck in a healing loop. Cloyster's out next, and Thunderbolt did about half. It missed a Clamp twice in a row, in fact, so we managed to knock that Pokemon out with no damage taken there. Now to the Slowbro. This is the Pokemon that I'm kind of worried about just because it's a tank. It goes Growl though, which isn't a huge deal. It does affect the Jinx range a little bit though. Here we're going to Body Slam the Jinx. We get a nice critical hit. It Body Slams us and paralyzes us though, and we get knocked out by Thrash the next turn. It's pretty clear that this is at least not going to be super consistent at this current level, so we might want to add on some rare candies just in order to see if it helps us out. So I'm going to try to get to level 33. That will leave us with 8 rare candies in the bag, but let's just see if at level 33 we get better ranges as we go through this fight. So now a critical hit Thunderbolt takes Dugong down in 2 turns. The Cloyster is going to be a pure 2-hit KO now. We're going for more of the same action on Slowbro. We just don't like all of these growls that we're getting. So Body Slam might not be the way to go here. We might actually be better off replacing Body Slam with a move like Fire Blast in order to get through Jinx more reliably. If we need it later on, we do have access to Tri Attack in the bag. That's at least a decent normal type attacking move. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to just try to replace Body Slam with Fire Blast, give us a super effective move against Jinx, and that might be enough to get us through. Because now we don't really care about the growls giving us attack drops. They're just giving us badge boosts and special. So here we're kind of saying just please use Growl against a Slowbro. Unfortunately, it doesn't oblige, but we get through on really good health. Now we miss the first Fire Blast and get paralyzed, but the second Fire Blast takes Jinx down below half health. So if we can manage to land 2 Fire Blasts, we will knock that Pokemon out. Now Lapras goes for Blizzard. It misses. We get a critical hit Thunderbolt that also gets paralysis. So now we're faster, and the next crit knocks Lorelei out as we get to level 35. So after leveling up and adding Fire Blast, we were able to get through that fight. Like I said, we still have access to plenty of rare candies in the bag, so I think we're good to go. And next is Bruno. We're just going to spam Psychic. I think we've got this one nice and easy. So here against the Onix, Psychic one-shots. Psychic is going to be enough for Hitmonchan. It's going to be enough for Hitmonlee. We just need no Gen 1 misses here. We destroy the second Onix. Out comes the Machamp. Critical hit, one-shot. We easily get through Bruno. Even at level 37, for a Mewtwo, Bruno is just no challenge. But now it's time for Agatha. We know that she can be random. If we get confused and just hit ourselves over and over again, we could lose. Or if she puts us to sleep with Hypnosis, we could lose. But otherwise, Psychic being super effective might just be enough here. So first up against the first Gengar, we're going to use Psychic. It did over half as we get confused and hit ourselves in confusion, but then she goes Dream Eater while we're awake, so we knock that Pokemon out. Out next, the Golbat gets a critical hit one-shot. The Haunter is going to be a 2-hitter as it uses Dream Eater again while we're awake. We get to level 38 on the Arbok and one-shot it with a critical hit Psychic. And final Gengar, it goes Dream Eater. We use 2 Psychics. We easily win. So yeah, Agatha, no challenge whatsoever for a Mewtwo. It's kind of standard, but still good to see that even at such a low level, Agatha was just kind of a joke. But now I think it's time to add on Blizzard to our moveset as we go into Lance, because it will be super effective against most of his team. I'm going to forget Thunder in order to have Blizzard. I think this is the best strategy. Let's just see if it is in fact enough. So first up, we've got the Gyarados. I'm going to go Thunderbolt, of course. We do not one-shot, but we get a Leer. That's perfectly fine and knock that Pokemon out. Out next is the first Dragonair. We go Blizzard. It is a one-hit KO. Blizzard on the next Dragonair did not get the one-hitter, so it's clearly a range here. We'll knock that one out the next turn, though. Let's go Thunderbolt on the Aerodactyl. It is faster than us. He Hyper Potions, and then he misses a takedown, so we managed to knock that Pokemon out. Finally, we are to the final Dragonite. Blizzard one-shots, so we got a little bit lucky that the second takedown from the Aerodactyl missed, otherwise we would have lost, but still, we are able to get through there without using the rare candies. We've still got 8 rare candies in the bag. We could get to level 48 here, maximum. Let's go into the champion one time without the rare candies just to see how it looks. I think we're going to level up after the first Pidgeot, but then if it doesn't work out, we'll start slamming the rare candies to see what level we can actually win at. So first up against the Pidgeot, I think Blizzard is the play. It's not quite a one-hitter, but he goes Sky Attack, so we'll just knock him out the next turn. Out next is the Alakazam. We could really go for any of our non-psychic type moves here, but Blizzard is definitely the strongest. It goes for Reflect, and then it recovers, but if we could manage to freeze it, we should win. Here he goes Psybeam though, and that's going to allow us to knock that Pokemon out. Blizzard now on the Rhydon is a one-hit KO. Exeggutor, we're going Fire Blast. It's going to be a two-hitter after a critical hit, but we do manage to get through. Level 42 as we get to Gyarados. Let's go Thunderbolt. It's going to be a two-hit KO. Hyper Beam did massive damage, but we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. We're to the final Charizard. We don't have any Blizzards left, so we just have to go Thunderbolt. He uses Rage and gets a critical hit, but that's enough to allow us to win at level 43. We left 8 rare candies in the bag as we finally managed to beat the champion. So it took an hour and 6 minutes, 22 seconds. We finished with a score of 90.6, 34 resets, 6 TMs. In spite of the fact that we had a much worse range against Erica and Koga, and we were even less consistent against the Lieutenant Surge fight, we ended up with nearly 30 fewer resets by running Mewtwo as a pure psychic type. Now it's important to note this isn't a great result because it's still significantly more resets than we had with Victory Bell, but hey, Mewtwo did manage to beat the game and much better than when we had the incorrect typing, so Mewtwo keeps its status as one of the best Pokemon in Gen 1, just maybe not the absolute best when it comes to ultra minimum battles. Still, that was a heck of a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody who pointed out the mistake in the first video, and I hope you enjoy this one and the actual results as they should have been. And now as we register our Pokemon into the Hall of Fame, let me just say Happy New Year to everybody and thanks for your patience. I've actually been dealing with a few things on the back end. We finished with a time of 4:20 game time. Oh, legendary. But with that, Mewtwo has managed to successfully beat Pokemon Red and Blue on Ultra Minimum Battles. Tell me down below what other Pokemon you think would be capable of this challenge. And with that, I'm going to give a very quick life update here at the end, but otherwise, if you don't care, I'll see you in the next one, no problem. But for channel members especially, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. Of course, you know I haven't been posting quite as often. I've mentioned it in the community posts. I lost a family member that's really important to me. My grandmother, Julie, she's the only reason I'm here making these videos right now. My parents were broke. They had kids while they were still in high school, so they couldn't really do much of anything as far as buying video games and whatnot. It was my grandmother who bought me Pokemon Blue version when it came out, and without her, I wouldn't be sitting here making these Pokemon videos because I never would have been able to even own the games back in the day. So if you feel up to it, maybe just leave a very nice comment for Julie down in the comments below. But outside of that, if you feel the urge to do something especially nice, consider donating to Adoption Dreams. It is the charity that my grandmother volunteered for the better part of 50 years, helping families to adopt young children and babies, not only by, you know, vetting and finding good families for them, but also by providing mental health and medical support to birth mothers that were giving up their children for adoption. It is the thing that she was the most passionate about. She worked for this charity until literally the end. So if you feel so moved, maybe consider a donation. I am going to be taking a trip at the start of February to go back to the United States to attend a funeral. So there will be a little bit of a slow start to February, but I'm going to be just trying to keep my chin up and just dedicating everything that I do this year to the memory of my grandmother. She's the only reason, like I said, that I'm here. And every time I play Pokemon, I think about her and I think about just how great the 37 years that I had with her were. So anyway, that's all I got to say on that. I just hope that you guys are doing well. If anybody's going through stuff, because I saw a comment on my post about it that, you know, there was another member of the community dealing with his mom having cancer, and, you know, it's tough, but, you know, we just got to stick in there and we got to remember all the good stuff, you know, and I hope I bring a little bit of brightness to your day as well. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.